bottom of your screen, you should be able to see more, and you can select your preferred language. We'd also like to notify you that we are now live on YouTube, and we'll also record the meeting, and we will share the recording with you afterwards. Other than that, we are really pleased to have you here. Thank you everyone for joining. Do feel free to let us know who you are, where you're joining from. The chat function is open. We encourage you to engage us, talk to us, telling us where you're joining us from and who you are. We look forward to that engagement. Now, welcome to this edition of our Virtual Knowledge Café. So in this Knowledge Cafe, we are discussing strategies, solutions, and ways in which we can move from climate challenges to gender-responsive solutions. And every month, we identify an expert working on different areas of our agri-food systems, in different facets, different dimensions. And every month, we present a certain topic to us for discussion, to learn from each other, to learn from what is happening in which part of the continent that can be scaled for which part of the continent. And so today we have a fisheries and climate scientist expert from Malawi. Last month, this is the second edition of our virtual series, of our Virtual Knowledge Cafe. Last month, we had an expert working on pastoral systems from Kenya, presenting to us some of the solutions they are working on in northern Kenya. And today we are going down south to Malawi to hear about the fisheries, what is happening in the fisheries fields in Malawi. And so we are hoping that through these conversations, we are going to foster collaborations, we are going to advance more conversations around how we can continue working on agricultural-driven development while paying attention to climate change and also the ways in which women and men smallholders are positioned in our societies and in the agri-food systems. So I'm really delighted and honored to be moderating this conversation, and I'm looking forward to having active contributions from everybody. The chat function will remain open throughout, and once our presenter has finished presenting, we'll also give an opportunity for anybody who wants to share with our audience, whether you have a question or if you have something that resonates with you that you also want to share with us. We very much encourage you to take that opportunity. You just need to raise your hand, and we'll give you the floor. Meanwhile, if you have any question as we are as the presentation is ongoing, you can feel free to type in the chat, and my colleagues will respond to you or will monitor those ones and direct them to our speaker. On behalf of the director, Dr. Susan Karia, the director of AWARD, I am sending warm greetings from her and welcoming you once again. So today's speaker is Dr. Gladys Chigamba. Dr. Gladys Chigamba is an AWARD fellow and a scientist working. Just want to open her bio. Give me a minute. Right. So Dr. Gladys Chigamba is an AWARD Climate Fellow, and she's also a fisheries and aquatic ecosystem management scientist with a track record of advancing sustainable watershed management. She's a member of African Women in Science and a network of trained scientists by the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education. She's currently a lecturer at the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and previously she worked as a fisheries researcher for the government of Malawi under the Ministry of Natural Resources, where she also served as the gender focal point. I'd also like to mention that Gladys Chigamba was recently appointed to serve in the steering committee for gender in Malawi, and we are really pleased to have her serve there alongside other experts. She's been trained by the Center for African Leaders in Agriculture, popularly known as CLARE, that is run and offered by one of our partners known as AGRA. So we're very pleased to have you here, Gladys. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome you to take over and to share with us what we have lined up and how you're working on advancing sustainable fisheries among Malawi's and women and youth, and driving climate resilience while doing that. Welcome, Gladys.
Thank you, Dory.
Okay, Gladys, we can see your screen. You can proceed.
So thank you very much, the moderator, and thank you everyone who is here. So it's a good afternoon and greetings to everyone wherever you are. Once again, my name is Gladys Chigamba. I welcome you all to this discussion, which is very deep in my heart. And it's a practical experience from the community. It's not just academic, as I am an academician. So before I go further, I'll introduce myself a bit. I'm a fisheries and aquaculture researcher, and mostly I focus on climate resilience and also social inclusion. I have been working with the Ministry of Natural Resources, as already said, and now I'm working as a lecturer with the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. So I'll walk you through the presentation or the discussion we have today. So I'll start with the overview of the fisheries. How important is the fisheries sector to Malawi as a whole? And also I will highlight the role of women and youth, the challenges they face, and we are going to go until we conclude with some key recommendations. So to begin with, I'll rather say fisheries is one of the economic drivers of our country, which contributes at the moment 4% of our GDP. It's not just food for us, it's also one of the animal dietary protein, which we get 70% from. And also we get more income from all the fisheries districts where people, more than 70,000, rely directly on fisheries for their livelihoods. And 600,000 more, they also rely on fisheries indirectly. So this sector also strengthen the climate resilience, especially when the fish farming is done sustainably. It reduces the pressure on the capture fisheries. So we know what happens when the capture fisheries are stable, the ecosystems are stable, they are resilient to the effects of climate change. So it also comes with the development in the rural areas. So why are we focusing much on the women today as we are discussing? Women and youth are mostly contributing a lot to the sector. We have the frame survey of 2025, which is showing that 50% of the fishers we have are the youths. Right? So the youth are comprising of 50% of the fishers. They may not have the capacity to have a gear or the boat, but they give their energy 50%, which is a lot. And also the women, they help a lot when it comes to post-harvest handling, with 70%, which they give in post-harvest processing. So we can see that these two categories of people, they have the fisheries at heart, and they contribute a lot. And giving them what they require, they can transform the entire community. And also the study has shown that when women have the income, they invest in the households, 90%. So this is what we need to transform our communities, reinvesting in the communities, whether in terms of health or in the livelihoods as a whole. So what exactly are holding these two categories back, like the youth and also the women? They face multiple challenges. Some of the challenges are outlined here, but there should be many challenges which they face. There's limited access to fishing and farming inputs. With the climate change, the sustainable fish farming category or the system which is being done now is the cage fish farming, which most of the women are not part of because they cannot afford the equipment. And from the same annual frame survey, we see that only 2% of the women are the fishers. They own their boats and also they own their nets, only 2%. So apart from this, they can't do the fishing, but also when they want to access that resource, it's also a problem. There's a lot of exploitative practices where we have a lot of middlemen. Some of them, they want to exchange women and exploit them for the resource, which is very contrary to the Gender Equality Act, which we use in Malawi. And also the climate change has come and intensified their vulnerability because now the resource is not available for everyone. The demand is too high. So with the reduced stock, there is increased vulnerability and accessing of the resource. So post-harvest losses is also another issue, which is also connected to lack of finances. So in response to this, we work on some practical and inclusive solutions, which some of my research does. We come up with trainings where we train them how to construct better ponds, which are deeper, which can conserve water, or which has got the ponds which have got very strong dikes, whereby it can withstand the floods. But also we do research in the wild stock so that they can be harvested sustainably. And one of the key approaches I work on is to work with the communities in form of community-based interventions. So we'll see some of the interventions which we come up with or which we do in our work. So we translate our research into action. We don't just research so that they can gather dust on the shelves, but rather we need this research to come into action. We also train women and youth in climate smart aquaculture, as you can see in the picture, but also we support most of the cooperatives to come up with the diversity of income sources. So we have the cooperatives, and most of them, they are women cooperatives under the umbrella African Women Fish Processors Network, which I'm one of the board members. So we call it AFishNet, which is an Malawian chapter. So with these cooperatives, we train them how they can manage their income, but also how they can diversify their income so that they can become resilient. So alongside these interventions, we also promote some specific smart solutions. And some of them that outlined here, the climate smart, we train them to do the integrated agriculture, which is also another way of diversifying their livelihoods instead of just depending on fish, which when it fails, they are also vulnerable. And also we encourage them to have the climate resilient species. And we are lucky enough, most of our species in Africa and Malawi as a whole, which are used in the fish farming, they are resilient to climate change. And as I said already, we also train them to come up with the better and improved pond designs, rain harvesting, and also some climate smart processing. So, however, these solutions to be sustained, they have to support what the national is doing. So they support our policies. And these policies, they are also focused on the community participation. So we have, for example, the gender analysis, which we did in most of the fishing districts. This one feeds in our policies so that we can see how the critical role women and youth are playing. And also we translate this policy into some actionable steps. Instead of just keeping the policies, we make sure we dilute them and come up with the action steps, which we do in the field. So the gender analysis, which we did, ensure that the policies are inclusive, but also responsive in terms of climate change. So from this work, I have gathered several important lessons, which I can share with you today. One of the greatest lessons which I've learned is that we can't do anything without the community. So it has to be participatory. The community engagement is very essential, especially when we talk about women and youth. We need their participation to improve the outcome. We have already seen that in fisheries sector, they play a bigger role, and our youth, they're very innovative. So we need to give them a chance to be part of the fisheries business. But also, instead of just training the youth, they need more than that. We can incentivize them by give them maybe the grants or the soft loans to start the fisheries business. We can help them to access the finances, which is already being done, but it's not enough at the moment. There are a lot of efforts to do in that platform, but it's not enough at the moment. And also we need to climate smart practices which build resilience, climate smart aquaculture, climate smart processing, and the like. But also, I have learned that access to finance is the drawback, which is a major barrier to women and youth. They don't have much of the financial muscle. When it comes to fish farming, it's a capital-intensive investment, which most of the women and youth, they don't have much power or in terms of finances to go into the business. So these lenses have also shaped my personal and professional growth, because I've learned a lot from the community. I've learned a lot from all the platforms. And from this learning, I've also learned a lot from several fellowships, as the introduction has already said. I've learned a lot of leadership and mentorship development, which I also use in my work and also in the community. And this has strengthened my confidence and also expand my voice. And I can't underestimate the value of the network which I've gained through the networks. And also, we have to acknowledge that women leaders, they drive sustainable change, right? We have, through all the, what I've been in the women platforms, like one of the platform is the Women Conserving Africa, where I had part in in a panel discussion about the biodiversity and climate change, I've seen that when you give a platform to women, they really come up with a sustainable change. So it's not about women participating, but we need those women to be in higher position to make decisions about the conservation. So this has led me into a specific highlight, which I'm going to share with you as well, which is about the award fellowship. This is a specific one, which has strengthened my leadership more than I was, because the award fellowship has changed my career. And in the process, I have seen my academics being elevated, and as already said by the moderator, it positioned me into a gender mainstreaming person, or a gender focal person, whereby I also become one of the committee members in the gender mainstreaming in the department, which was one of the award highlights. And apart from this, I gained my career path, where now I am a lecturer, but also I've been elevated to the deputy head of the department, which is a plus for me. I wouldn't celebrate this as a positive to me when there was no influence on the ground in the community. So this goes beyond me. It goes to the community impact, which go along. So as a lecturer, and also as an advocate of inclusive and social inclusion, I work also with the grassroots, the school-going kids, in conservation, on water conservation, and also pollution management. I've seen most of the school-going children making more impact than maybe the older ones. So if we give this opportunity to learn, the impact will be everlasting. So go beyond and reach the grassroots. But also when I have a particular topic which touches on the climate and gender, I make sure that I do the topic and integrate what is needed in the topic and deliver it to the students as the next generation. But also the scaling community impact through this education. We also work a lot with the communities and ensure that everyone who is in our community become a scientist. I believe in citizen science. Everyone has that link in science. So we don't have to close doors and become scientists on ourselves, but rather open the doors for everyone to be a scientist, and they will feed in our research. So based on this experience, I would like to highlight some key recommendations, which I will share. We already have policies in place, we already have our acts in place, but we can strengthen the implementation of those existing policies to be gender inclusive, but also to monitor how they are being implemented and enforce what is already in our documents. But also I would recommend that each ministry, each department, and each agency have their appointed trained gender focal person, so that it can coordinate all the gender equality efforts which we are talking about today. We can also call upon the collaboration with the NGOs or the partners to support the climate smart aquaculture, which we are discussing today, but also promote community innovation by strengthening cooperatives and engaging the youth. This will help them to create their own jobs based there in the community and elevate their livelihoods. So this said, I will conclude with the key message, which says, when women lead and youth innovate, communities thrive and our ecosystems recover, and even the planet, it can heal. So this far, I will thank you all for participation, and also I welcome the comments, the questions, and the opportunities for anyone who need to collaborate in this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gladys. I can see many people appreciating you. Please join me in appreciating Gladys for that excellent presentation on the work that is doing in Malawi around promoting sustainable fisheries, driving climate resilience among the women and youth. This is really, really encouraging to see, but also really encouraging to hear about your testimony around your growth over the years. One of our primary focus areas at AWARD is around enhancing the leadership capabilities of women experts, women agricultural researchers, women agricultural professionals. And so this is really music to our ears when we hear you talking about how you've been able to grow in your career, getting to serve in very prominent and critical committees in your country, but also you growing to become the deputy head in the department. Congratulations, Gladys. This is very encouraging. I'm really pleased to see a lot of award fellows joining us, some current award fellows, but also some alumni. It's great to see you all. Thank you so much for joining. We had earlier asked you to engage us in the chat and to tell us where you're joining us from. The chat is still open. And now we've opened to the questions. If you have a question, I'll try and check the chat to see if there's any question. Okay, there's a question from Priscilla Capochichi. Priscilla, would you like to just ask your question? You can just unmute yourself and go ahead, and feel free to ask it in French. So Gladys, you may want to also activate the French.
Bonjour à tous. Merci beaucoup pour cette belle présentation. Il y a un peu de bruit à côté de moi. Et j'excuse pour ça. Ok, je suis Kapochichi Priscilla. J'ai un doctorat en hydrobiologie et aquaculture. Et je suis Climate Fellow Award. Et ma question, c'est de savoir comment est-ce que vous avez pu identifier des espèces climato-résilientes dont vous avez parlé tout à l'heure dans votre pays, au Malawi. Et je voudrais savoir, parmi ces espèces-là, est-ce qu'il y a des espèces de crustacés? Parce que j'ai comme l'impression que vous avez beaucoup plus parlé des poissons, surtout au niveau des images et autres. Donc, je voudrais savoir, est-ce que il y a des espèces de crustacés climato-résilientes que vous avez identifiées? Et si oui, quelles sont ces espèces-là? Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Priscilla, for your question. I don't see any other questions, so I'll invite Gladys to respond to Priscilla about how she was able to identify the fish species that she's promoting in Malawi. Go on, Gladys.
Yeah, I was just about to say I didn't activate my French, so the fact that you have mentioned, I can come in.
Okay. Yes, go ahead. Priscilla just wanted to find out what varieties of fish you're working on, how you identified them, and if you're also working with any crustaceans and other types of fisheries.
Yeah, thank you, Priscilla, for the question. Most of our African fish, not Malawi as such, but most of the African countries, we have tilapia as our main candidate in fish farming. We may add on catfish and others, they have carps, but here in Malawi, we only have the tilapias and the catfish, and the rest of the exotics are very illegal to bring them when you are doing fish farming. So we identify the fish. First of all, we are still having some candidates in the lab to be studied. So that is the first step, to study their life history, how they feed, how they are number of eggs, how they survive, where do they lay their eggs. So after that, we are satisfied with all those results. We bring the candidate to try them out in the field. But for now, what we have as the candidates in fish farming, they're only tilapias. We have 3 types of tilapias, which are, we have Oreochromis uranus, we have Oreochromis kalongai, we have Coptodon rendali. We also have Mozambicus, which is a small type of tilapia, but we add on the catfish, which we call Clarias garipinus. So those are the candidates which we have, which are very limited. And we are trying to study more because as in the world, we have variety. We have almost 1,000 species lying in the wild, which are to be studied. But in fish farming, we have very few. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gladys, for your response. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I don't see any hand up. I know today is a holiday. Many people are still committed to join, even though it's a holiday. If we don't have any further questions, we invite you to subscribe to our newsletter. Okay, I see a question. I see a hand up. Kujo, go on. And then followed by Rachel.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup, Madame Anne, pour votre belle présentation. Je vais poser ma question en français. D'abord, je salue les initiatives que vous avez mises en place. J'aimerais savoir quelles sont les stratégies que vous mettez en place pour assurer la durabilité de ces solutions-là. Parce que même si on implémente des solutions, l'autre aspect est quand même d'assurer la durabilité et l'extension de la solution à d'autres zones. Moi, par exemple, je suis au Bénin, je suis intéressée par vos solutions, par exemple. Est-ce que ces solutions-là peuvent être peut-être appliquées dans notre contexte béninois ici? Voilà un peu ma question et merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you, Kojo. We'll take from Rachel before inviting Gladys to respond. Rachel, go ahead.
Thank you, Gladys, for an incredible and insightful presentation. I would like to hear from you, as someone working at the intersection of science, gender, and academia, and given your experience as an award fellow, what role do you see tertiary institutions playing in creating opportunities for women and youth, especially in aquaculture and fisheries? I look at it as a science, and then when you go really into the fields, most into like high schools, secondary schools, most people don't really know it. They don't understand it. How can universities move beyond knowledge creation to actively support knowledge or mentorship or leadership in this field? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Very, very important question when we talk about a pipeline. Is there any hand up that I'm missing? No? Okay. So we had a question from Namkuju from Benin. I don't know if you're able to get back a repetition. She was asking about how you ensure sustainability of the interventions that you promote through the projects. Once you finish the project, how do you ensure that there's sustainability? Because she's also interested to see if there's any of this that can be replicated in Benin. And then Rachel, you've asked about the role of academic institutions, I believe, in promoting fisheries for uptake, you know, as a field that requires, you know, to be pursued more. I see your hand. Alice, will come back to you once we've heard from Gladys. Gladys?
Okay, thank you for the question. So I'll start with the sustainability part. From my lessons, I've already said, I've learned a lot that the community themselves being part of our conservation is very sustainable. So it's participatory, whether it's in conservation, whether it's in fish farming, when we go with the project, we make sure that the communities, they own it. So if you saw one of my pictures where we had the policy slide, we make sure that the institutions which are already there in the community, like in the world stocks, we have the village committees who also act like the fisheries department at the village level. So we have those institutions which are already in our village. So we work with those institutions. So apart from those institutions, the community themselves, so we have a lot of village heads who are part of the village committees in management. So having someone in the village whom people they trust a lot and who live in the hands of them, they already up for sustainability. Those people, they listen to those whom they trust a lot. So they trust their own leaders. So if we go with the project and make sure they own it and their leaders are the ones who are leading by example, it becomes very sustainable. I may give an example of one of our Benji Island, which maybe most of you have read on the internet. This is a very traditional management type of. So when it comes to management of this ecosystem, which is part of the lake, we gave it to the traditional. So they have their taboos, they have their rituals which they use to manage the resources, but it works. So I think the best way is make sure the community own what they are doing. So the interest should be theirs and you just capacitate them. When we go to Rachel's question, as a university, we usually have our secondary school students and also some of the primary students come for field work. And most of them, they come during the holidays and they spend some practical sessions at the university. Some of them, they come just for a visit with their schools. So in so doing, they develop that interest in fish farming. And most of the syllabus which we have in Malawi nowadays, I've seen from my children, they also have part of the fisheries as one of the things which they study and their importance in the syllabus. So at the university, we roll out, we go beyond just the tertiary, we go just down and make sure we have also the sessions for the secondary school students. They go to the college, they learn the practical part of the fisheries and also the primary school. So that is why I had the picture of the primary school students, whereby they were also managing the beaches. They clean the beaches. They even categorize those plastic pollutants. They can categorize them. They know how to recycle. So that is much what we do to make sure the impact is from the grassroots and it's everlasting. Thank you.
Okay. So Alice had her hand up, but I can also see a question from Josephine Musioki. What actions have you taken to influence policy in the fisheries? I think that's very easy for you, Gladys, to respond to. You have specific actions that you've taken.
Sorry.
So you can respond to that. And then Ali.
Dory, sorry, you break a bit. I lost you some 2 seconds.
Sorry. Okay, so there's a question from Josephine, who is asking, what questions have you taken to influence policy in the fisheries sector in order to enhance gender mainstreaming?
Okay. So thank you, Josephine, for the question. As I already said, we had no gender focal person in the department. And from our engagement with the award, we advocated for it. And now here I am. I'm one of the gender focal person who was working with the department. And we made sure that we have the committee for the gender equality in the department. And good enough, one of my alternate into the gender mainstreaming is also an award fellow who is also capacitated in the gender mainstreaming. So we have made sure that even our budget, they have the gender lens. Whatever activity which we do in the development, they have the gender lens. We are not leaving anyone behind. So we have come and we have made sure that the department as a whole, they have the gender focal person. So this is a stride which we have made.
Okay, thank you, Gladys. I also recall that you shared that one of the things that you do is gender analysis, and the results that you obtain from this, use them to inform the policy decisions, the implementation, the recommendations. And I also mentioned your other counterpart that you serve with in the Gender Mainstreaming Committee is a fellow, like you've mentioned, from a different fellowship on policies. So the Gender Responsive Agriculture Systems Policy Fellowship. She's an award policy fellow. Alice had her hand up, but I cannot see it anymore. So I don't know if there are any further questions.
No, I still have the question, Doreen.
Oh, all right, go on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gladys, for this presentation. Quite informative and quite interesting. There's just one thing I wanted to know about conflict when it comes to aquaculture. Like, I come from a region just near the lake, and there's a lot of conflict when there is aquaculture being done in the lake, cage farming, yeah, where there are people who are raising their fish in cages, but in the lake, and then there are the traditional fishermen. And the traditional fishermen and the communities are really complaining that this is actually impacting their catch, so to speak. And they cannot fish freely anymore. There are too many cages. Their boats can't move freely. I don't know whether that is there also in Malawi, and if it is there, what is being done to alleviate those conflicts?
Yeah, thank you very much, Alice, for that very important question. Gladys.
Yeah, thank you, Alice. That is Lake Victoria, huh? Yeah,
Yes.
The last time I visited Lake Victoria, I saw the infestation of the cages. So it's a different case with our Lake Malawi. It's a different case. For now, we don't have a lot of cages, but the government is planning to put the cages there, almost 100, so that people can rent them out, and we're encouraging our women to rent these cages. So when it comes to conflict, what happens for a person to have the permit to go and install a cage is the process whereby, apart from siting or mapping that site in terms of water quality, we also engage the community, right? So there's also a social study whereby we engage the community. We have the BVCs, the village committees whom we engage. And after engaging the community, we make sure that they come in terms with what is supposed to be done in their area. So when the social study says yes, and the water quality study says yes, and the other studies on the siting and the like says yes, that is why we allow the person to go and install the cage. We don't really allow someone just to go and install the cage, because those conflicts are going to be there. And as a business, we don't want this person to lose. So that social study itself, it puts people in a know and also we gain their perspective of what they're thinking of this thing which is going to happen, which we are mapping. So we don't just go as scientists and measure the water quality. We also make sure people who are surrounding that development, they are aware of what we are doing. So if they are aware and they participate, they know this is a development, they are going to get job from there. Most of them, they allow the development to happen. And a cage farming, it's a two-way. It can be a negative, but also sometimes it's a positive, because in that surrounding, those fish are fed. So when they're fed, even the wild stocks, they also gain from that resource, and there's a spillover effect. So that spillover effect can also be a positive thing, but it just depends on how many cages are put in the lake. So it's also subjective. It's different from Lake Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you, Gladys. I see another question in the chat. Colleagues, we have room for maybe 2 more questions. I can see Fiona's hand up, so we'll take the question from Fiona, and then I will let you on the chat. Fiona,
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I hope you can hear me well.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gladys, for your presentation. And I think from your presentation, some of the challenges that, of course, women have is most of them is the limited access to finance, and again also have the problem. And even for those who manage to get the finances and move on, those also have a problem with being exploited in terms of the market pressures and all that. So my question is, what are the strategies that can be implemented to address the market exploitation of these women in agriculture and enhance the equitable access to financial services? Hope I'm clear.
Very clear, Fiona.
Yeah,
okay, so Gladys' question is about how to enhance women's equitable access to and how to address the issue of market exploitation. And then let me read the question from, respond to that one, then I read the one from Rachel.
Okay, so about the finance, I already presented on, we train our women fishers, processors and farmers to be in cooperatives. So the umbrella organization, which they are working with, is the Fishnet, which we are also encouraged to be global, not only national, because for now it's a regional. So what we are encouraging them to do is to become a cooperative. Most of our financial institutions, they want these people in groups or in cooperatives. So that is what we are doing. They follow the steps and become the cooperatives. So when they become cooperatives, it's easy for them to gain the finances they want from the banks, maybe from other financial institutions. So when they are cooperatives, they have that muscle to go and claim the finances which they want to use. And we have different organizations which have been working with the women. Like we have the Christian Aid, they have been working in that area where they link our women to the banks so that they can have the loans which they need for some period of time. We also had the project we had just ended, which was CFAD. It also gave them those were equipment like refrigerated vans, because they also had problems with post-harvest losses. So we make sure that we link them to the partners, and some of the partners, they are working within that category of finances. So on market exploitation, and also, I don't know if I heard your question well, because I presented about exploitation of women when it comes to accessing fish. Is that what you are trying to ask?
Fiona's, if I got it correctly, but Fiona, correct me if I'm wrong, she was talking about when they go to the market to sell the fish produce, exploitation in what they can get the market, right, Fiona?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Correct.
Yeah, we have a problem at the moment of a lot of middlemen demanding a lot from our women. The department is working in that line. We are identifying like women-led markets whereby women can freely sell their fish on their own. Because at the moment, what happens, you go to the lake, you want to buy fish, there's a middle person. You go to the market, you want to sell the fish, there's a middle person. And those middle person, they need more than enough from you and you end up being exploited. So we're identifying markets in all the regions where they are women-led, and the women are to be selling from those markets. And also, when it comes to fish farming, it's another backup because they sell their fish from their own private farms. So the department is doing something on that. They're identifying markets which are women-led so that they can reduce that practice. Thank you.
Okay. Interesting to hear about the identification and connection of these women to these markets that would give them fair prices. Now, Rachel is asking, okay, so you've spoken about women and youth as priority groups. Could you share why these groups are often specifically targeted? I think you had shared on challenges for women and youth and why you decided to focus on them. So maybe you can very briefly answer that. And then how do we ensure that while addressing historical and structural barriers, we also create inclusive approaches that strengthen opportunities across the wider community? Yeah, the second part of that question, Gladys, requires a lot more conversations, but I look forward to hearing from you. And then I'm going to go ahead and read the question from Restitua Bogere. So you're talking about theft of the fisheries resources as a barrier to aquaculture. How is Malawi dealing with this vice? So theft from both the ponds and the cages, if you're experiencing that. Over to you, Gladys.
I missed a bit of the first question. I got this one about the theft.
So the first question from Rachel is why you decided to focus on women and youth as priority groups. Yeah, why are you targeting these ones as priority groups? And the second part of her question is how you can ensure that while you're addressing those historical and structural barriers for women and youth to fully participate and benefit in aquaculture, how do you also create inclusive approaches that strengthen opportunities across the wider community? So you're specifically focusing on women and youth, but then how do we ensure that we are also taking into account or paying attention to the other needs of the other members of the community and strengthening opportunities for them so that in the end, the result that we have is not, again, having a skewed balance. You have inclusive opportunities. I believe, Rachel, I've explained your question well, but over to you, Gladys. And yeah, go ahead, Gladys.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. I will start with the theft. This is very tricky because we are talking about in the fish farming, we are talking about private. It's a private investment, but as we are mapping the site for cages, most of the cases, we make sure that the site itself is safe from theft. Why? How? Because it's now, we recommend the space which is very exposed to the proximity with the community. So the theft can be there, but we make sure that we recommend the place which is very visible from wherever the community is. We don't recommend a site where maybe it's behind the hill or it cannot be seen. So what we do on our part, we just make sure we recommend a better space and we map the better space for our clients so that they can go and do their fish farming there. But entirely the security is the owner who is supposed to invest also in security of that farm. And now coming to Rachel on women and youth, from the challenges we have seen that these challenges, they are gendered, right? So they are skewed towards the women and youth. And if you can see most of the challenges, lack of finances, it's also on women and the youth. So these are the ones who are facing the problem. They are very closer to the problem which we are discussing, and becoming very closer to climate risks. They are also the people who are the closest to giving us the solutions, right? So if the person has the problem, they are very creative to come up with the solution. That is why we are targeting women and youth, because of the long history of being segregated or invisible. They face a lot of the problems, and given a chance, they can solve their problems. So that is what we are trying to do. And from one of my slides, I have already said that these women have their income or their proceeds. Most of them, they are invested back in the families. So giving them the chance, they will invest in their families, but also the communities. So we are going to have very resilient families. A resilient family also make a resilient community. So that is why we are targeting women and youth in this discussion. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Gladys, and thank you very much, everyone, for your active engagement, for all the questions, for sharing with us. This has been wonderful. We've now come to the end of today's session. We look forward to the next edition that will come up in June. Look out for the announcement on our socials. We invite you to subscribe to our newsletter on our website, and you can be getting more notifications. Also, for the people who are interested in learning more about the award fellowships and what we do, we invite you to subscribe to our newsletter. From us here, just to congratulate you, Gladys, for the work that you're doing in Malawi, and also for sharing with us. We've enjoyed listening to you and learning more about the work that you do. And I wish you a wonderful evening, or enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yes, Alice, we pasha Gladys, and we pasha everyone else. Excellent. Okay.
Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you so much. I can go?
Yes.
Thank you.